Hi, everyone. Welcome to MadCap Flare. So glad you're here watching this video on getting started with this tool. Flare it's a software application, technical communication application that I just really love. And there's a lot I could say about it, of course, but the bottom line for me is it seems like it helps me get twice as much done in half the amount of time. So who can use Flare? Who is this for, really? Well, I'm a tech writer, and that's our largest user base is tech writers, but it's not just for tech writers. Lots of other people can use it too. Instructional designers, people who are in training departments, they can create e-learning courses, technical support. They could create knowledge bases. And of course, tech writers, where you create help systems and user guides and reference manuals, all kinds of things. So it can be used by a lot of people for a lot of different things. Now, I've been using Flare for, well, a really long time. I've been using Flare since, I think, 9 months before we went live with version 1. So I'm actually the first author to use Flare, been using it this whole time. And I was just thinking, there are lots of things that I wish I had access to back then. Lots of information, things I wish I knew. So in this video, that's my goal, is to tell you about things that if I were just starting out, again, what would I want to know? What would I want to hear about? So hang on, sit back, relax. That's what I'm going to cover in this video. Let's get started. Okay, so let's begin by talking about just some basics here, just to get us started. Now, Flare can be as easy or complex as you want it to be. You open up Flare and you're going to see a ton of stuff. And it can be easy to feel overwhelmed, but that's just because of the amount of stuff there is. But once you break it down, it's really not that hard. It's 5 basic steps, which I'm going to cover later in this video. You just go through these 5 basic steps. But of course, there's all kinds of extra stuff you could do. Now, you could open up you could create a new Flare project using one of our templates, and you could use the template instructions and just swap out your branding, your colors, your logo, and you could replace the content and just be up and running in no time at all. But of course, there's a whole bunch of other things that you could do. Maybe you're thinking, well, I want to integrate it with source control and use branching. If you already know what that is, you can do that. You want to have multiple projects and outputs from them, and you want to merge them together. Yeah, you can do that. Maybe you're thinking, hey, I want to create some batch files, and I want to tell Flare to build and publish this stuff in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping. You can do that, but you don't have to. There are all these bells and whistles. So over time, you'll get familiar with these things, but you really don't have to use anything that you don't want to use. You just go through the 5 basic steps, and trust me, you can be up and running, have output before you know it. All right, so another thing I want to talk about is Flare is a topic-based authoring tool. What's that mean? Well, you open up something like Microsoft Word, and it's one long document, and it can be really long. It's just linear like that. Well, Flare breaks things up into topics. So you can think of topics as maybe like web pages. And some web pages can be pretty short and some actually pretty long. You generally want to keep things, not have things too long, because you're writing about topics. So each one of these is a separate file. And then you just kind of group them together for the output in the way that you want. And this makes Flare very flexible. It's very easy to change things out and create outputs that you want that some have these pieces, some have these pieces, these topics or these topics. So it's really cool. Just know that you're going to be getting in here and you're going to be writing in topics. So it's really an online output mentality, first of all. So you're kind of thinking that way. I'm creating online output. Now, of course, you can create print-based output. You can create PDFs and you can create Word output and all these other things. But topics really are kind of an online first mentality. But then you take these topics and you stitch them together for these other outputs, for these print outputs that are more linear, like a Word document, like a PDF document. Okay, next thing. What is this? Single sourcing. If Flare is known for anything, it is single sourcing, content reuse. This is something you're going to really, really love about Flare. So you don't write content and then go, oh, I want to use it for this other thing, and you copy and paste and put it over here, and you, oh, I want to use it for this other thing, copy and paste, put it over there. Before you know it, you end up with lots of source information that's identical, but then over time it becomes hard to manage because you have to remember where you wrote all this stuff, and some of it gets out of sync, some of it's outdated. So it's going to save you a lot of time, money, energy by writing once and reusing that content. And Flare has different features for single sourcing that you will learn about, but it's super important that you grasp that idea. Another thing to talk about is that Flare is, it's made for the times. It's up to date, it's smart. For example, when you generate your output, Flare is smart enough to know when someone is looking at your output on a large screen or on a tablet or on a mobile phone. Everybody's always looking at their mobile phones. And so the content needs to be adjusted for that. Not everybody's looking at things on a gigantic screen. And so Flare is really smart and is able to help you create this real modern, up-to-date look for your output that just works on all devices for different purposes. When you see me looking over here like this, it's me looking at my notes. So multi-channel publishing. That is another important thing that you understand. When you create a project, you're not just creating the project for one kind of output. You can have all kinds of output that you're generating from that one project, from that one group of source files. So you might have several online outputs that you want to create. A help system, maybe several help systems, different versions of the help system, knowledge base, e-learning, online e-learning courses. And so you do this from one project and print also. Maybe I have a project where I have tons and tons of PDFs in addition to multiple online outputs. Well, I'm not creating different projects for those. I'm doing it in the same project, and I'm just sending that documentation out through those different channels, depending on what I want to accomplish. All right, and the final thing I want to mention here in this section is that when you get into Flare and you're authoring, you're going to open up, you're going to see here soon, I'll show you, you open up a topic and you start editing it. And it's simple to write in this editor. It's sort of like working in something like Word. But what's going on behind the scenes is you're creating these XML documents, and you're writing in XHTML or HTML. And that's the markup that's going behind the scenes. And maybe you're hearing this and you're going, X what, X who, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You don't need to know. That's the cool thing. So you're writing in this editor, and it's just, it looks like any other normal editor, except for it's really, super powerful. You can do all kinds of things with it. But behind the scenes is this markup. And all you really need to know is Flare is using the latest, greatest technology. This is what you want to be writing your documents in. And over time, you'll learn more and more. You'll sort of grasp what's going on with the structure. And bit by bit, you just learn more and more. And before you know it, you sort of become an expert. But of course, you're not going to be an expert right away. Nobody is. Everybody starts from ground zero, not knowing anything. But trust me, even if you don't know, if you don't consider yourself a real technical person, you can do this. I mean, look at me. Do I look like Steve Wozniak? So I can do this. Anybody can do this. You can absolutely do this. Just wanted to cover those basics. We're going to move on to the next section and move through the rest of this video. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about some of the resources that you can take advantage of. Because if I were just starting out all over again, before I even created my first Flare project and got in there, I would educate myself about some things. It's just going to save you a lot of time and heartache if you do that. And fortunately, we have a lot of free resources, a lot of things that you can use to kind of get yourself up to speed before you even crack Flare open. So the first thing I want to talk about are training courses. So this is the MadCap software website. And if you come up here and select services, you can click on certified training. And there are these free courses that you can take. And the cool thing is these are scheduled periodically. And so they're live courses, but they're also recorded. So you don't have to be there when they actually go on. And you come down here and you can see, this is a $600 value and it's absolutely free. There's no reason why you should not be doing this. You should absolutely sign up for this or watch a recorded session, a recorded course. But I would recommend that if you can, you take a live course because there's a Q&A section. And so you're going to be able to get questions answered right there as opposed to watching the recorded one and you watch that later on your own. So you can take at a minimum, do the free courses. Then if you think, wow, that was great, I want to dive in more, I want to learn more, okay, go to paid courses and you can sign up for those and learn even more. Okay, now the next thing that I would do if I were brand new is I would try to familiarize myself with some of the key features and concepts in Flare. Because like I said, you're going to open this thing up and you're going to see lots of stuff. But it's not like you need to become an expert at all of it right away. In fact, you should focus on the things that are the most important. Get to where you're really comfortable with those things and then learn about the other things. So how do you do this? All right. So I would open up the online help and there's a section dedicated just to this. So here's the online help, which you can open. It depends on when you install Flare, you can include the local version. So it might be locally, it might be right there on your computer, or you can go to use our server version, which is at help.madcapsoftware.com. I'm actually looking at a local one that I just built locally. So it's the URL is different from what you would see, but help.madcapsoftware.com, and come over on the left and select key features, key concepts and features. And so you can just go read these topics in here: general key features, authoring, design, importing. It's going to talk about things that you should understand about single sourcing and the topic-based authoring that I talked about. And then when you're authoring, okay, cross-references, those are really important. When you're creating links, you're going to want to create cross-references and use the link viewer. That's how you understand what files are linked to other files. And snippets. Snippets is a concept that has to do with single sourcing, which I talked about, and variables as well. Images, of course, you're going to use images. So everybody uses images, but not everybody uses, let's say, QR codes. Maybe you will use QR codes, but it's not as important to understand up front because everybody uses images. So I would just read through these topics just to get familiar with some of the main things that Flare has to offer. And don't get distracted by all the other stuff, because if you look in here, you're going to see a whole bunch of other things. Fill your brain up with the things that are most important first, and then worry about the other things later. Okay, up next, I want to talk about tutorials. So tutorials that we've created with Flare, this is where you are following some instructions. You're actually opening up Flare in a project and you're working through it to actually learn it. And so I feel it's important because this is one of the ways that I learn best, is to get my hands dirty and actually create the thing. And it just seems to resonate more for me. So let's take a look at that. Okay, once again, in the Flare online help, come over on the left, there's tutorials. And you look at that and you can either look at the at this TOC over on the left, or just look in the topic itself, and you're going to see links to all these tutorials. Now, you're going to see a lot of these, but I wouldn't necessarily go from beginning to end, because there are some, like I said, just with the features, there are some things that you're going to want to know more early on, and then you can learn other things later. So of course, I would start with the getting started tutorial. I would go through that. Wouldn't worry so much about these. Now, e-learning tutorials. I would do e-learning if that is my world. Maybe I'm an instructional designer and creating courses is really important to me. It's something I do. I would absolutely go through the e-learning tutorials. But if you're not creating online courses, you can skip those. Moving on down, lists. I would do the list one because everybody creates bulleted lists, numbered lists. Do that. I would probably do the micro content tutorial, even though some people might think, well, that's sort of an advanced thing, but it's really super easy. And not only that, but it's a way to really create useful, effective documentation that really gets in front of your users in a really, really cool way. People are going to be able to find your content easier. So I might do that one also. Moving on down, I probably would do the single sourcing. Absolutely, I would do the single sourcing tutorial, because again, that is what Flare is really known for. You absolutely want to be single sourcing your content. Move on down, styles. Styles are at the center of Flare. You got to be able to control how things look and feel, and you got to understand how styles work. So I would do that, and then I would do tables. I would do tables because so many people create tables, and if you have an understanding of the way they work, the parts of the table, it sounds like it should be a really simple thing, and it is a simple thing, but there's more to it than just saying insert table. There's using table style sheets. There's different things like that. And then word import, only if you've got a bunch of Word documents and you're importing, do that one. But otherwise, you can skip that one too. So tutorials, work through those. Maybe you could work through these and read those topics in the online help while you're waiting for the training course, the scheduled training course for that day to come. This will help you educate yourself a whole bunch. Okay, one more thing that I would recommend that you look at in the online help when you're just getting started. It has to do with what I call architecture, but I would use a little bit of caution in this because some of the content in there might be over your head as a brand new user, but it is also important to read some of this to have an understanding of it when you're new, when you got to make decisions at the very beginning. That's what this is about. There are certain questions that come up that you just need to make decisions about. And sometimes you don't make those decisions until down the road after your project's been going for a while, and then you have to change things. And so it's better to make certain decisions ahead of time. And I'll show you here in a second what I mean. But some of this, yeah, you'll maybe read it and you go, I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about. That's okay. Just grasp what you can, and then you can always come back and read, these things later. But let's take a look at this section of the documentation. Okay, so over on the left, you're going to see this section, architecture, and I split it up: external architecture and internal architecture. The point of this is that when you're creating a project, there are certain things outside of it. So, interactions between other software. So, and other concepts. So that's what I mean when I say external architecture. How does your project relate to these other things? So it can be things like Flare project structures. That's a real important one to understand, because you might be thinking, okay, I'm going to create, I got a lot of things I need to document, a lot of things I need to do. Should I be creating one project or multiple projects? Should I put everything in one or separate it? And then if you do separate it, can you connect these projects to one another? Yeah, you can. You can. When I first started out, I know I was documenting all the Flair's different products, and I created a different project for each one. And for a lot of people, that's the best way to work. But for me, I found that, hey, it turned out to be better to put everything into one. So this just kind of takes you through some of your options, things to consider. So maybe you should create multiple projects. Maybe you shouldn't. Where do you store these? Should you be using source control, images and videos? So what about the software, and how does that, you know, can you, how do you link to things? Should you be embedding things, or you should be linking to things externally, like videos, or what are your options here? And then there's internal architecture, and that goes over things like the inside of your Flare project. Naming conventions is important, and a lot of people don't consider this until down the road. You should probably establish a standard. Everybody, maybe you've got a team of writers and you want to establish, everybody names things according to certain standards. Like I like to use hyphens between my file names, because I've heard that helps with search engine optimization. Whether that's absolutely true or not, I don't know. Not positive, but I've heard that it does. And I'll name files certain ways. I'll use certain keywords. Just is good for consistency and helping you actually find things later. So there's things like that, using snippets and conditions and variables and things like that. So this whole section here, again, some of it you may go, yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to be doing that. I don't even know. I need to understand more, but some of it will make a lot of sense to you, and it will hopefully help you to make these decisions up front to save you a lot of time and headache in the future. Okay, this next one is real easy. Videos. We got a lot of videos for you to watch. You're watching one right now, getting started video. Yay, you. Good job. But there are lots of others. This one is just to kind of lay the foundation. So where do you get to these videos? Well, you can go into the MadCap website, or just go right to the very, very, very end of this video. You're going to see a link to a playlist. And that playlist is one that I put together that just has all of the Flare videos in it. Starts with this one. So you've already watched this one. Just go to the next one. Watch the ones that you want. So again, that's something that I myself like to use. I like to watch videos. I actually like to watch videos first, just kind of get a broad sense of what's going on, and then I'll go into tutorials and I'll read other things. So yeah, go to the end, click the link, watch the playlist, watch whatever videos you want, and hopefully that's going to help turn some things in your head. All right, I promise, I'm going to open up Flare and we're going to get into it here starting in the next section. But before that, just want to say one of the other things that I would do before I started creating my actual projects, where I had my actual documentation in them, what I would do is I would create a bunch of small projects. After I've accumulated all this knowledge from training courses and tutorials and things like that, and I thought, oh, these are kind of the things that I want to use. So I wouldn't start trying to master them right away in my actual project. You can do that, and you can always undo things. That's fine. But I just think it's better to work things out in a small project. And you're going to see here when we get into Flare, you're going to create a new Flare project. You can select from different project templates, create different projects using different templates, see how they look, see how they work, play with the features, just mess around with them. That is something I would absolutely do, because you're not going to screw anything up. Nothing's going to blow up on you. And even later, if you get into your actual Flare project and you make mistakes, so what? Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. The best Flare authors out there make mistakes, and you just learn from it and fix it and carry on. But it's really good to, when you're a newbie, to work things out in practice projects, so that you're just better equipped when you get into and work in the real thing. Okay, now we're going to open up Flare, going to start working through these 5 basic steps, and I'm going to show you some things to focus on at first when you're just starting out with Flare. Alrighty, so this is Flare. This is what it looks like when you first open it up. And you got these different kind of segments in here. This middle section is where you're going to be doing most of your work. And this is called the start page right here. You're not going to do, a lot of work in the start page. It's just going to get you going. But editors are going to open up in here, and this is where you're going to do things. And over on the left, you're going to see window panes that are going to hold your files once we create a new project. And you're going to see ribbons at the top that let you do all kinds of things. And sometimes you'll see window panes on the right. Right now, you're going to see the dynamic help window pane, and that just shows you the online help. And it changes. You can see as I click in things, the topic, the associated topic opens automatically. So this is good to have open if you're brand new for a while. And so if you're not sure what something does, you click on the project organizer and you go, what's that? Well, this tells you about it. You can read all about it if you want, but then after a while, you know about it and you are becoming better and better at Flare. Well, you can just turn this off and gets you more room in the middle. Now, the way that you're seeing this right now, that's because I'm recording it at a lower resolution, but you see as I make the space wider, these buttons are here on the left as opposed to the top. So what you see is it depends on your screen size. So first thing we want to do is create a new project, and it couldn't be simpler. So you just click right here. There's different ways to do it, but the easiest is just right here, click new project. It's going to open up this wizard, which is just a couple of pages in here. I'm going to resize this a little bit. And you name your project anything you want. I'm just going to name it that, my project. And by default, it's going to go in your documents, my projects folder, but you can put it anywhere you want. I actually put my main projects at the root of the C folder, at the C directory, for various reasons, but that's just what I've done forever. But you can put them here or wherever you want, your language. Don't worry about these the bind to source control yet, but your language, that's pretty self-explanatory. Next, now this is the most important page where you're going to select a template, and a template is just it's a Flare project that's already got some files in it. It's got some settings in it that just helps you get started quicker. We separate these, segment these according to online and print, and then there's a couple down here that are used when you go through the tutorials that I showed you about earlier. And you just click on these and you can see a preview of what they kind of look like and a brief explanation. So e-learning, if you're going to be creating e-learning courses, knowledge base, maybe you're doing that. Side navigation, you want the navigation on the side as opposed to the top, like that. And so as you go through and select these and create them, you generate the output, and you're gonna see exactly what we mean by the names of these things. And you'll notice that they all kind of have the same color scheme. They kind of look alike, but the real difference between these is some of the things that give it their structure, like the navigation here on the left or on the top, or the e-learning has certain, it's skinless and it's got e-learning components in it already, or some of the print set up like a brochure or a product fold out. So, but the color scheme is the same, but later, once you open it, then you change the colors, you change the logos, you change the images, all of that. So you just go through here and you select one of these. Maybe you end up deciding, hey, side navigation, that is the one for me, or side navigation in PDF, because these are basically identical, these and these. The difference is some of these are just set up to automatically generate PDFs as well as online. And that's the only difference, but it doesn't make any, even if you selected one of these up here, you could add PDFs, you could add all kinds of things later. It's just that some are set up to let you get going according to what you think your needs are up front. Now, these are all built into Flare, all of these templates, but we have additional ones here. If you click download additional project templates, that's going to open up this web page on the MadCap site, and you scroll down and you're going to see all these other look and feels in here. Really, really cool looking templates. And maybe you'll find one and you go, hey, I really like that one. Well, you can download that. And then it's going to download it. You'll, I believe, in a zip file, and then you open up the zip file, and that's going to open up in another instance of Flare. And then you can go to the previous instance here, and you just close out and you go, yeah, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to go through the rest of this wizard because I want to use that other template. It's up to you. But I'm just going to select one of these in here, and I'm going to click next, and don't need to worry about that. You just click finish, and there it is. It loads up the files for you. So the project organizer, now it's populating. You're going to go in here and you're going to see files, and you're going to go into the Content Explorer and you're going to see files. So you can see how really quickly you can create a project in Flare. Now, I talked about changing your colors and your branding, your logo. So if you open up the template instructions, all of the templates that are built into Flare have this template instructions PDF. You open that up, and that's going to tell you where to change your colors, where to change your logo to get the branding yourself. And then you can delete this PDF after that. So I'm just really scratching the surface of this. There's some more to say about templates and about creating a project, but there are other videos. You can watch the creating a project video and the project templates video if you want. So, but otherwise, that's it. That's how quick and easy it is to create a brand new project in Flare. So you've created a project. That's step one. Step two is adding content and features into that project. Let's go back into Flare and check it out. Okay, so the main places where all of your files are going to be held are going to be here in the Content Explorer, or you can click the accordion bar to switch to the project organizer. The difference between these is just that Content Explorer, these are content files. So topics, we talked about topics, and these are organized right here into a folder, but so you don't have to put them in folders. You can, and you can create extra folders. If I move this out, you can see there's a folder button to create a new folder, and just move topics, move things around wherever you want. So topics that's the main content file, but then you also got this resources folder down here, and you can see there are subfolders in here. Images, so there's some images in here, and you got your style sheets to control the look and feel, and table style sheets, and template pages, and there can be even more in here. And you don't have to put these in the resources folder, but we recommend it. Just helps keep everything better organized, and then your topics kind of outside of that in other folders. All right, so you're going to see these and these, the project organizer, these are for project related files. So these are not content. These are sort of supporting files that help you use other features and control things like the skins will help you control the look of your the navigation and search and all that stuff around your online output, and TOCs are really important. Those, of course, are going to give you your navigation for online output. For print output, that actually functions more as an outline, but TOCs are really important, and you're going to want to learn about conditional text. That is something that is used in single sourcing. Now, a lot of these other things you can probably wait on learning. So all of these files, the project files, the content files, they're separated. They're separated, which is a really, really good thing, because you now have the power, the flexibility to mix and match things, to use things when it makes sense for certain outputs, but not for other outputs, instead of cramming everything into one big file. All right. Now, when you want to add new things, whether it's a topic or other things, I recommend that you right-click on folders in here, and then you select new, and you select whatever it is you want to create. Like I want to create a new topic in here, and I'm just going to type my topic. Going to be lazy, make it all lowercase, and you can select a template. There's lots of templates up here, but I usually just use the main one. Click add, and it will add it in here. And I probably should have made that uppercase because that's going to drive me crazy. So there's a topic. And so the reason why I tell people right click on the subfolder is because it is just quicker and easier to get it into that location where you want the thing. And again, usually here, I'm going to rename this. I usually put hyphens in between the words. So my topic, like that. There, rename the thing. All right, so you get into the XML editor. And this is where you're going to do the vast majority of your work. You can see, hey, this is, you just click and type away to your heart's content. And you're going to notice some things about the XML editor. Even though it is sort of like working in Word or some other word processing program, it actually has some other unique things like these structure bars over here on the left, because remember, you are writing XHTML documentation. And so I could press enter, and I'm just typing nonsense here, but I could turn this maybe into a list, a bulleted list. And you see how the structure bars change. It's giving you information about the structure of the topic, which if you get brave one day and you click on text editor, this is what's going on behind the scenes, these tags. And you, of course, don't need to know about this right away. You don't have to work in that. You're working in this. But as you look over here on the left, you go, oh, I get it. I got an H1, that's a heading one. A P, that's a paragraph. UL, that's an unordered list. And it's got list items. And within that, there's other tags. All right. So this is working in the XML editor. Now, what are you going to be adding to this? Well, that depends on you. Much of what you're going to be adding is going to be done from the insert ribbon up here at the top. And some of these are going to be really common for you. The images, yeah, you're going to be doing that, but maybe you're not going to be doing slideshows at all, or not that often. But tables, yeah, I'm going to be adding tables. Cross-references, got a link between things, or hyperlinks. Maybe I'm going to link to an external website or something. Snippets are really important. Variables are important. So you just kind of learn about these different features and how to add them into your content files, into your topic files. Another ribbon that will probably be important is the table ribbon, because it's more than just that insert table. There's all these other buttons and bells and whistles in here. And then if you're doing online courses, of course, you're going to use the e-learning ribbon a lot. One of the topics, of course, are the main content files, but I did say how important snippets are. So when you I could create a snippet which is going to, from this, notice this text right here, I can select it and everything, but I can right click this. I like to do things from right click a lot too. So you're going to use right click, but you can also use the local toolbar. A lot of these are the same options that you'll see in the insert ribbon or elsewhere. It's just, these are things that we think are most common that people will do. And then right click, same thing. There's things that we think people will do. And I could create a brand new snippet. And I'm not going to change the name. It just says new snippet, and it's going to put it in this location. It's going to create a new folder called snippets under resources. It's going to replace this content, click create. And now I can't click in it. That's because it's a separate file. It's a separate file over here called new snippet. I can open that up. That opens up in another tab of the XML editor. So the beauty of this is, if that's content that I want to reuse lots of places, I can insert it in lots of places. So that's something that's important to understand. Back in here in the XML editor, I talked about structure bars, and we have a structure bars video you can watch. There's also such a thing as markers. Notice the brackets around the snippet here. And if you look over on the right side, you see another one. And there's other markers. That's called a marker. And it's just an indicator that something unique is happening. You're not going to see it in the output. So for example, I just pressed F10. That's going to add this thing called an index keyword. And you see this thing, this green thing with text. Don't need to go into index keywords right now. Just know that's a marker. So you're going to see some unusual things in here that don't show up in the output, but tell you that something is going on besides just text, just regular content. So that's a real quick look at the XML editor, the Content Explorer, the project organizer. Again, there's lots of videos, tutorials that'll take you through this in more depth. Just want to give you an idea of how simple this can be and some of the more important things to focus on. And one other thing I didn't mention is you start making changes. You're going to see an asterisk here. It will dirty the file. And then you just up here in the upper left, there's your save buttons and there's undo buttons. And I added special buttons up here. So it's really cool. There's just so much that you can do with it. Adding content and features, probably where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. So it's important that you get to know the XML editor and these different file types. Okay, so you created the project, started adding content and features to it. Step 3 is designing. But these steps 1 through 5, it's not like you always do, one completely and then the next one and then the next one. There's a lot of back and forth. So I might do some designing and then I go, oh, I need to create some new topics and do these other things. And I go, I'm up in step 2 again. Then I'm back in step 3. Maybe I get down to step 4 and I'm doing things. And then I come back and I create more files. So, you go back and forth. But in general, this is sort of the order. Now, designing, you want to get your output, your content, your output to look and feel the way that you want. And there are different ways to do this, different features that you're going to use. Let's hop back into Flare and take a look at them. So the main thing really, when you're talking about designing that comes to mind is styles and your style sheet. So unlike something like Word, we don't have proprietary styles that are just locked down to that document or that project. You create an external style sheet, which it can be used throughout your project. You can have multiple style sheets. You can share that style sheet with other projects. It's really good to have your presentation separated from your content. So you can see in this topic, I've got this H1, this heading 1, and it's got a look and feel. The text is bigger than this text. It's blue. It's using a certain font family. Well, that's done with styles. And if you look over here on the left under the Content Explorer, there's a folder here, Style Sheets. And I just have one style sheet in here called styles.css. And that is what we're talking about. Now you open up this thing. And so style sheets, and these are cascading style sheets, CSS. And this isn't something Flare created. This is something that's just standard across the world. All of these web pages that you look at on the internet, they're using CSS to control the look and feel. And so we're just using something that is just a universal standard, although there are certain things, cool things that Flare can do that you can't do other places. And so we do add special MadCap styles, but all these other ones like H1 through H6 and P and, you see all these other ones in here. These are all just these are just standard styles. Now, this is the style sheet editor where you control this. And there are a couple of different views in here. There is a simplified view. If you click this toggle button, it goes back and forth between them. I just took a moment there, and you see this is just done in more this grid format. And you go back into advanced, and it's like this. Now, there used to be a bigger difference between the advanced view and the simplified view. I think anymore, the advanced view is about as easy to use as the simplified view. So even if you're new, I think you can use the advanced view and you can do a whole lot more in it. But when it comes to styles, it's an enormous subject. You can go on for days and weeks and months and years talking about it. There are people who are brilliant, who know all kinds of things about styles. I don't know everything about styles. I know I learn more and more every day, but nobody knows everything because it's such a huge thing. So you just grow and you understand more and more all the time about it. But it is important that you focus on it, because the difference between a good Flare author and a great Flare author is their knowledge of styles and what they're able to do with it. But because there's so much to understand about styles, there's actually created a a series dedicated just to styles of videos. And there's the styles tutorial, because it's really important that you get in and understand it. But in the beginning, if you could just focus on a couple of things that you're going to use most, I would say is applying styles. For example, I could create a new paragraph here. And I could say new heading. And let's make this capitalized. New heading. And I don't want this to be regular paragraph text like it is now. You see the P there. I want to apply a style. I want to apply a heading style. Well, there's a couple of ways. There's multiple ways to do it. Could select the home ribbon. And from here, from that style dropdown, just select H2. I want it to be in H2. Or I could open up this styles window that's over on the right. And I could do the same thing. Maybe I want it to be in H3. Okay, so you applying styles. That's one thing you want to learn. And another thing you want to learn is how to change styles. So you saw that H1 has blue text on it. Well, I could change that. I could come in here to the font, and right now it's using this thing called a variable, which you'll learn about in time. But I could use this handy thing here, and I could just select something else. Let's select something garish down here. Let's select red. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that is garish. Select that, save, go back, and it's changed. And the beautiful thing about that is no matter what topic I open up, as long as it's using that H1, that styles change. That's why you want to use styles. You don't want to go in and change this stuff, what we call locally, or inline formatting, some people call it, because it's just going to change it at that one spot. So styles are really, really super important. Another thing that you'll want to know when it comes to look and feel is template pages. And you can see there's some in here. Well, what are template pages? Well, you can see my topic has my heading and it's got some text in there, but sometimes you want to apply certain content to a lot of topics at the same time. For example, maybe you want a copyright line at the bottom of each and every one, and you don't want to add that or insert a snippet in each one. You could add it to a template page, or breadcrumbs across the top. Let's go back into the Flare Online Help, and you can see I've got some stuff here. I've got these breadcrumbs that show up at the top of every topic, and it changes according to the TOC. That's a breadcrumb. This is topic toolbar here. So these are added into template pages. So it's important that you understand template pages so that you can work smarter, more efficiently, and have content on multiple pages. All right, so that is another one. What else? There are page layouts. So if you get into wanting to do print output, I'm going to just create a new folder here. Call this page layouts, and that's the recommended name that you give for that folder. And then I could select new and create a new page layout. And so page layouts are, and I'm just going to click add, doesn't matter here. Page layouts are similar to template pages in that you're able to apply stuff to multiple pages at the, easily for your print output. So this controls like your page size, your headers, your footers, your page numbers, and that is used for print output. And the last thing I want to mention in here are skins. And you're going to see skins in the project organizer, like right here. The side navigation, I've just got one skin in here, so you can have multiple skins actually in a project and apply different ones to different outputs. And there's actually little tiny skins called skin components in here. So what's this for? Let's go back out here to Flare, to the online help, and you can see, oh, I've got this header bar across the top here, and I got a search bar, and I've got, this is all the contents of my TOC for the navigation. This is done with a skin. All right, so you can control where this stuff goes, the navigation. It can go across the top if I wanted to use top navigation. I could control the positioning. I can control the look of my search bar, put different logo in here, all that stuff. So designing, believe me, I'm just scratching the surface. There's so much more I could say, but we don't want this video to go on into next week. Okay, next step, step 4, developing targets. So let's hop into Flare, check that out. Okay, so targets are here in the project organizer on the left, and these are, if topics are the most important files here in the Content Explorer, the targets are the most important files in the project organizer. And why is that? Because these are the files that generate your actual output so that you can accomplish something. So you have something to show for all your work. If you don't have a target, you don't have anything. And so you double click your target file and it opens up here in the middle space where everything else is. And there's all these tabs and they have all these options in there. And that can be somewhat overwhelming. I'm going to go through the most important things. There's a lot of stuff in here that the good thing is you set stuff once and a lot of times and that's it. You're just kind of done. But even though there's a lot of stuff in here, it's not like you're going to use all of it. We'll highlight some of the more important things. Now, how many targets do you need? You got your project, you want to create lots of outputs. How many targets do you need? Well, every output, different kind of output that you want, you need a different target. If I have 4 online outputs and 50 PDFs, well, I need a target for each one of those. And if I were to show you my big project where I have all the Flare documentation, open up my targets folder. First of all, I've got a bunch of subfolders in here, each named after a product. Under that, I've got other subfolders, some that will say online, some will say PDFs. And then I've got loads of targets under those. So every PDF that I create is a different target. And so you can see this one is called HTML5, but that's an output type. That's a type of online output. If I were to right-click targets and say add a target, you're going to see that there are lots of different kinds of targets: HTML5, PDF, Word, plain XHTML, blah, 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 blah. Some of these are deprecated, which means they're going to heaven one of these days soon. And some of these are just kind of older, like HTML help. The ones that we recommend people use, HTML5 for your online output, PDF for print. It's not saying you can't use the others, but that's what most people use. That's what you're probably going to want to use. HTML5 is just better, can do more things than the other online outputs. And PDF is just generally accepted as the default, print output. But you could create like Word output too, if you want. So it's really up to you what you want. So let's look. And by the way, we do have an output type video too that takes you through the different output types so you can make an intelligent decision about what you want to use. So I just have this one target created in here and open. So let's take a look just at some of the main things. So on the general tab, you're going to see, okay, it's the HTML5 type. Startup topic. What's the first file that you want people to see when you generate the output and you open it up? Well, mine is set to a topic called home. All right. Primary TOC. What's the main TOC? Because I have lots and lots and lots of TOCs. Well, I need to point to the right one. What TOC is going to be used for this thing? So those are a couple. Oh, and skin can also, the skin. Well, those are the main things on the general tab. Skin. You might come in here and need to select a specific skin if you've got lots of them in here. You can say, I only have one, so set at default, so it's just going to use that one, but I might need to select a specific skin. Of course, if you're doing online courses, you're going to want to come in here to e-learning and maybe select an LMS system, SCORM, and so you're going to be able to integrate your online courses with an external LMS system, and you set these options in here. So if you're doing online courses, this is really important. But if you're not doing online courses, you skip this. Conditional text, most people are going to use conditional text. This is one of the single sourcing features where you are able to create these tags for different reasons. And you can see there's a handful in here, but I could add lots more. And I could tag content, say, I want this content to only show up in this output, but not in that output. And then you tell the target to include it or exclude it, by using these things over here. And so conditional text is super important. You want to become familiar with that. Variables are important too, but you're probably going to set this thing up and you can override certain variables and stuff. You'll learn about variables later, but you're probably not going to use that. A lot of these things you're going to use, but you set them and then you're just kind of done with them for the most part. Every once in a while, you might have to get in, change something. Also in here, let's see. Search is about different. You have different kinds of search engines that you can choose. But if you're unsure, you can just use the default MadCap search at first and figure out the rest later. Advanced, there's a whole bunch of options in here, and your eyes might water looking at these. But the one thing that you definitely want to make sure you come down here to template page. I talked about template pages. Make sure you select the one that you want to use for most, if not all, of your topics. That's the template page that has the breadcrumbs or toolbars or extra content, and it just associates it with that output, and it goes, okay, I'm gonna apply that extra content to all your topics because you're using this target. So that's important. And this is an HTML5 target. I could create a new one. Let's do PDF. Just named it PDF. I can name it anything I want, but I'm going to select that type, click OK, and you're going to see that it's much the same as the HTML5 target, but there are different settings and some different tabs in here. So, of course, some of the same things apply to the PDF target, and you again want to make sure you select the TOC, which is actually an outline for PDF output. And so that's important. And also, what else? A lot of these are exactly the same, but then you'll get this extra PDF options tab. And so you can go in if you want and specify certain things about the PDF. So that's a real quick look at targets. You can look at the online help and see what all of these fields mean if you really want. But as long as you understand the basic ones to get yourself going, that's really what you want to concentrate on at first. Okay, just like that, we did steps 1 through 4. Now we're on to the final step, which is to build and publish your output so that people can actually see all the stuff that you've done. And back in Flare, so again, the targets, these are the things that are going to be used to actually produce your output. And there are different ways to build output. There's, options. There's in the project ribbon, there's a build one. You can right click things and do it. So a real easy way to build output is just open up the target and you click build. And what's going to happen is it opens up this window pane here at the bottom. And you can see the progress. And once it gets to the end, this is a real tiny project, so it's going to be really fast. Once it's done, it's turned start green. Its compile status says 0, or it says done. Warning says 0. So this part over on the right lets you know if something's wrong. And so what you want to not see are things in the warnings column and in the errors column. Errors, that this thing will turn red, and it means it just completely failed. Ignored warnings is okay. It's like things that Flare thinks I might want to know about, but I told it, yeah, don't bother me. So it finishes, and then you just double click the thing, and there's the output. This is from the template that we created. And you can see it's got the side navigation, and this is how it looks. And you can see, oh yeah, there's the red, or that hot pink that I used from, I changed the headings, and I have that new topic that I created. It's not showing up over here, but that's because I didn't add it to my TOC, but I can get to it from search. It was called My Topics, and I do that, and there it is. I can get to it right there. All right. So that is how it's building output is so easy. Of course, there's more to it. You can do more. You can automate the things, schedule. You can use what I referred to earlier in this video. You can create batch files to do it while you sleep. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but it can be this simple. And then how do you get it to your end users? Well, there's different ways to do that. Really, you just got to put these things in a place where people can get to them. If you're generating a PDF, you could generate the PDF and you could send it to them if you want, or you put it up on a server or something and link to it. That's what most people do for PDFs or for online output. And you can also select that row. As you generate more and more, do more builds, you're going to see additional rows here, but I only did one. So I have this just one row. Select that, select open output folder. And I've got this over here on another screen. I'm going to move it over, and this is it. It takes you right to the location, and these are your output files. And you would just put these up where somebody can get to them. Or you could use things called publishing destinations. They could publish, to an external location somewhere. You could publish to Salesforce or Zendesk or MadCap Central. There's all kinds of things you can do. But that's just a real quick look at how easy it can be to build the output and to get your hands on those output files so you can get them in front of your end users. Okay, so covered a lot in this video, even though it's really is just scratching the surface of so many things. There was a lot in this video. I understand that. What I would just advise you is do the things that we talked about throughout this video. You get comfortable with things. Go, okay, I got it. Then you move on to other things and you just keep learning and learning and learning and learning. The entire MadCap Flare community, everybody's learning things every day, new things every day. Nobody knows it all. So it's fun. It's fun working in Flare. You learn a little bit, you get it done, you go, cool, I want to learn the next thing. You learn that, you go on. Now, I do want to show you just a couple of other resources before we call this video quits. Going to go back into the browser here. Okay, so one thing you can do in the Flare Online Help is on the left, go all the way to the bottom, and you see resources. Click that, and that opens up all these other things. So of course, we have all of our PDFs, videos. We talked about webinars. Go click on that and goes to the MadCap website. We do webinars all the time, multiple ones every month. These are completely free. You sign up for them, so you never know what you're going to learn. The blog, the MadCap blog, there's all kinds of extra information in there too. The community, click on that. Get involved with the MadCap, the forums with the MadCap community. There's all kinds of really, really smart people out there who have just gained experience over the years, and you can get a lot of questions answered that way. And one final thing that I think everybody should consider doing is signing up for MadWorld. This is our annual user conference. This is the MadCap software website. You go to resources and MadWorld conferences right there. We do this every year. This year's is in Austin, and there's two ways that you can take advantage of this. You can go in person. You can sign up and go in person, or you can do the at-home part of this so that you're not even leaving your house. But this is so useful. You're going to hear from speakers all over the world on a variety of subjects. It is really super useful, especially if you go in person, because you're going to get access to a lot of people in technical support and QA who can help you answer your questions face to face. Really would strongly advise you to sign up for that. If you can't go this year, go next year. It's all good. So that pretty much does that. All right, and that's going to do it for this getting started video. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to MadCap Flare. I know that as you dig into it, you're going to love it as much as I do. All right, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.